You haven't fully realized it yet, but something around you has already started shifting quietly, subtly, in a way that didn't ask for your attention at first. It didn't come with a clear sign. No announcement. No obvious moment where everything suddenly changed. That's why it's been so easy to overlook. But if you slow down for a second, if you really pay attention to what you've been feeling lately, you'll notice it. Something is different, not dramatically, not in a way you can easily explain to someone else. But internally, something doesn't feel the same anymore. The way you respond to certain situations has changed. The way you perceive certain people feels slightly different. Even the way you think about your own life carries a subtle shift that wasn't there before. And you've noticed it, but only in passing. You haven't stopped long enough to fully understand what it means. Because part of you still expects things to feel the way they used to. You've been moving forward as if everything is the same, but internally, something has already moved. And that's where the disconnect is coming from. You're trying to function within an old version of your reality, while something new has already started forming underneath it. That's why certain things feel slightly off, even when nothing obvious is wrong. That's why moments that used to feel normal now feel just a little unfamiliar. Not uncomfortable enough to alarm you, but different enough to make you pause. And instead of exploring that feeling, you've been brushing past it, telling yourself it's nothing, that you're just overthinking, that things will settle. But listen carefully, this isn't something that's going to settle back into what it was. Because this shift has already happened. You're not waiting for change. You're adjusting to it. And the reason it feels confusing is because it didn't happen externally first. It happened within you. Something in your awareness has already moved forward. Something in the way you see things, the way you feel things, the way you interpret what's around you has quietly evolved. And now, your external reality is catching up to that internal shift. That's why it feels delayed. That's why it feels subtle. That's why it's hard to point to a single moment and say, this is when everything changed. Because it didn't happen all at once. It happened gradually, in small realizations, in quiet moments, in feelings you didn't fully stop to process at the time. But now, those small shifts are starting to connect. You may find yourself questioning things you never questioned before. You may feel less attached to things that once felt important. You may notice that your reactions are different, calmer in some situations, more distant in others. And that's not something to ignore. That's something to understand. Because what you're experiencing right now is not confusion. It's transition. You're no longer fully aligned with the version of your life that once felt normal to you. And because of that, everything around you is starting to feel slightly out of place. Not because it's wrong, but because you've changed. And when you change internally, your perception of everything around you changes with it. This is where most people get stuck. They try to force themselves to feel the same way they used to. They try to hold on to what once felt familiar, even when it no longer resonates the same way. They ignore the subtle shift, hoping it will pass. But it doesn't pass. It deepens. Because it's not a temporary feeling. It's a realignment. Something in your life is being quietly redirected, not through force, but through awareness. You're being shown, in subtle ways, what still fits and what doesn't anymore. And that realization doesn't always come with clarity at first. It comes with a feeling, a slight disconnect, a quiet sense that something is no longer the same, even if everything looks unchanged on the surface. That's what you've been feeling. And the more you ignore it, the more noticeable it becomes. Not to overwhelm you, but to guide you. Because this shift is not happening against you. It's happening for you. You are being moved gently into a different alignment. One that matches who you are now, not who you were before. And that process is not always comfortable, because it requires you to let go of the assumption that everything will stay the same. It requires you to accept that change has already begun, even if you didn't consciously choose it. But here's the truth: you did choose it. Not in a single moment, not in a clear decision, but through your growth, through the way you've been thinking, the way you've been feeling, the way you've been evolving internally. That growth created this shift, and now your life is adjusting around it. You may not have all the answers yet. You may not fully understand what this change is leading to, but you don't need to, because right now, this isn't about knowing the outcome. It's about recognizing the shift. It's about allowing yourself to acknowledge that something has already changed instead of trying to hold on to what it used to be. Once you do that, things will start to make more sense. Your reactions will feel clearer. Your decisions will feel more natural. And the confusion you've been feeling will begin to settle into understanding. But that only happens when you stop resisting what you already feel. So if things have felt slightly different lately, if you've noticed small changes in how you think, feel, or respond, don't ignore that. Don't brush it off as nothing, because it's not nothing. It's the beginning of a shift that is already in motion. And the sooner you recognize it, the easier it becomes to move with it instead of against it. You're not losing your sense of normal. You're evolving beyond it. And that's why things feel the way they do right now. If this message feels like it's describing something you've been experiencing but haven't fully understood, you don't need to explain it to anyone else. You can simply acknowledge it in your own way. Even writing 222 in the comments as a quiet confirmation that you recognize the shift that's already happening within you. Stay aware, stay grounded, and trust that even the smallest changes you feel are leading you somewhere you haven't fully seen yet.